topic of our group release is letting go of the fear of being ordinary. So let me talk a little bit about what I mean here. Letting go of the fear of being ordinary. We do so many things to try to stand out, to make ourselves special, different. What comes to mind? Well, the obvious ones would be wealth, money, power, fame. Many people want those things to make themselves stand out. But it doesn't have to be that. It can also be experiences. It can be achievements, or even, well, spirituality. I'm more spiritual than the rest of you. I'm more evolved and more conscious. Even that. So I invite you to think about all the different strategies that you have adopted to stand out, to be different. And let's dig into that a little bit deeper. Why is it we do this? Why? Because there's a sense that deep down, we're just not enough. It's not okay to be ordinary, everyday, average. It's not okay just to be one of the masses. So there's that sense that by adding to ourselves, we increase the likelihood that others will respect us, admire us, approve, and also that they will provide resources that will ensure that we don't go hungry. If I'm just an ordinary person, I just get passed over. Now, ultimately, all of this really is just what? It's a substitute for love. So let's explore this in our release. Just take a moment, things settle, and just notice that sense of, I need to be different, special, whatever it is. I need to be recognized for. I am important because of. Or I deserve love because. Just notice all the different answers that come up. There may be more than one. In fact, surely there is. Just notice what feels true to you and feel it in the body as best you can. Notice the reactions going on. Usually happens from the throat down to the groin. Notice any kinds of tension, discomfort, restriction, any kind of knots. Notice also any thought, mental images, the memories, the beliefs. Allow all this to be here just as best you can. And then, when you're ready, could you welcome it even further? Be okay to feel this way. Notice what it is that you feel you need to do to stand out. Notice also underneath that sense of fear. I can't just be ordinary, can I? And then check and see, does that feel personal? Of course it does. So just allow it to feel as personal as it might. That be here. And then when you're ready, could you let that go? Is it possible? And would you let that go? Are you willing? When? So we're releasing on that fear being ordinary. And notice also, key part of this is that comparing myself to other people, comparing myself also to my past, where I was and where I am now. Notice any sense that I need to be different, I need to be special, I need to stand out. And then notice lies below all that the fear of sameness, being ordinary, run-of-the-mill, average, just like everybody else, one of the mass. Just notice any sense of fear that comes up. And since that's usually an uncomfortable feeling, just notice how much you don't want to feel that way. Be honest. Notice that it doesn't feel comfortable. But allow it to be here just as best you can and breathe into it. Notice also what's happening in the body. Tension, discomfort. Open up to that as well, just as best you can. Notice also how personal it feels. This is about you, who you are, your value, your worth. Notice how that feels when you believe that this is true. And now let's take a slightly different approach. Can you find the one who feels that way? Can you find that individual? And again, yes, you may find something. There may be memory. Sure. And also perhaps the sense of physicality. Notice these just thought, images, sound. Isn't that physicality simply sensation? What of this is actually you? Is it possible that you are simply that which is aware of all these sensations and thoughts? And notice how it feels to simply rest in awareness as that which is aware. Okay? So, let's go back again. The topic, of course, is that fear of being ordinary, sameness, average, unremarkable. Now let's just turn this around. Because in all of our experience, there's also that sense of the disappearance of the sense of self. What am I talking about? Well, that happens to us at certain times, like, for example, the feeling of being in a big crowd celebrating, and all of a sudden we feel one with the crowd, and there's a joyous sense of oneness. Some of us feel that in church, for example, singing together. Or for some of us, it can just be that time when you forget yourself, that sense of self. You lose yourself in what you're doing, your work, task. Or also be a sense of oneness with others. So what I'm telling you is, what I'm suggesting, is that those times when we feel ourselves lost, when that sense of individuality disappears, peak moment. We talk about ego death. And some of us experiment with chemicals that can produce that, and others with various experiences that can do that. So just for now, could you open to that sense of oneness? Humor has a way of doing this. When we're laughing and we look into the eye of the other, there's an instant connection, there's an innocence, there's an openness. The barriers go down, and there's connection. So breathe in to your heart and just allow yourself to feel that as best you can. You might remember a time when you felt like that. There might be something that you do with others or alone. But just simply resting in your heart, as we're doing. This can be enough as well. And if you're not quite there, then just notice what's here and let that be okay. Whatever sense of separation, whatever sense of hesitation, whatever hold back, would that be allowed? Would that be okay in this moment? Would you open to that? Give it permission. And breathe. And when you're ready, could you let that go? Would you let that go? When? And then, could you open even further to the wholeness, the oneness, the complete? It's right here, right now. Could you allow yourself to be awake? And what if just ordinary, just natural, is the doorway to the sacred? Hold that in your heart as best you can and just allow it to be. Allow yourself to be, and all to be as it is. Good. Feels like a good place to stop.